The twin suns of Viridian hovered high in a pale green sky, casting elongated shadows across the crystalline terrain as the sleek, amber-colored airship descended onto the platform by Lake Zephyria. Ethan Cross, an archaeologist by both profession and obsession, stepped from the vessel. The moment his boots touched the glimmering ground, a gust of wind, charged with an otherworldly hush, ruffled his sandy brown hair. He paused for a moment, inhaling the crisp air tinged with the mineral scent of the lake. Lake Zephyria stretched out before him, its surface shifting gently in the double sunlight, reflecting a dazzling spectrum of pastel hues that danced across the water. It was eerily still, yet the shimmering waves gave an impression of constant, subdued motion, as though the lake itself was alive and watching. The pilot of the airship, a stoic Viridian native with deep, lilac-hued skin, wordlessly pointed toward a solitary outcropping of black stone rising from the shore. "Thank you," Ethan said softly, and the pilot merely nodded before lifting off once more, leaving Ethan amid the haunting quiet. The archaeologist adjusted the straps of his pack, feeling the weight of tools, research notes, and an uncertain future. His dusty explorer's jacket clung to his torso, the pockets filled with small memory chips and scanning devices. In his chest, curiosity pulsated like a second heart. Rumors abounded of immortality hidden within these strange waters, whispered across the stars by spacefarers and relic hunters. Many had tried, and just as many had disappeared, devoured by the silent enigma of Lake Zephyrria's glimmer. Ethan strode forward, boots crunching the crystalline fragments beneath his feet, toward that rise of black stone. As he neared, a wave of apprehension accompanied the wind. He could sense something intangible pressing against his consciousness, like a gentle yet unignorable presence. Over the centuries, Lake Zephyria had taken on mythic proportions in the annals of the galaxy, credited with strange phenomena, miraculous healings, and, rumor had it, a path to everlasting life. But few dared to investigate thoroughly, deterred by the region's reputation for dangerous illusions and lost explorers. Ethan, however, was drawn by the stories. He had tasted stardust in many corners of the galaxy, uncovered relics from lost civilizations, and walked among the ghosts of forgotten planets. Now, he was driven by a personal quest, the possibility that the legends were true, and that the watery secrets of Zephyria might hold a cure to the creeping disease ravaging his sister back home. Near the black stone outcropping, he noticed a solitary figure. Cloaked in dark, billowing fabric, the person stood with arms crossed, their presence strangely regal. As Ethan approached, the figure raised a slender, azure-skinned hand and pushed back the hood, revealing an elegant face. Her deep blue skin glistened in the sunlight, and her black eyes reflected the lake's shimmering brilliance. "You're early, off-worlder," she said in a melodious but firm voice. "I am Lyara, guardian of these shores. I watch over Zephyria, and I know why you've come." Ethan inclined his head respectfully. "Ethan Cross. I'm here to study the ruins near the lake. We have reason to believe there's a hidden archive within them." Lyara's expression was inscrutable. "Your reason is personal, I sense. You speak like one searching for more than knowledge. But heed my warning. Lake Zephyria does not give up its secrets freely. Those who seek immortality often lose themselves." She turned, and Ethan followed her gaze out across the shimmering surface of the lake. "Still, your timing is fortuitous, or perhaps ill-fated. The last alignment of our twin suns in this century is happening soon, and the energies will be stronger than ever." Despite the caution in her voice, Ethan felt a surge of excitement. "I've studied star charts. This alignment might unlock the hidden structures beneath the waters. If they truly exist, I want to see them." Lyara's gaze bore into him. "And if it is more dangerous than you can imagine? I have guided many explorers to these shores. Most were found half-mad, gibbering of echoes from beyond the veil, or simply vanished without a trace. Life without risk," Ethan said quietly, "is merely existence." Lyara arched an eyebrow, intrigued despite her caution. She pivoted on her heel and started walking away from the lake, beckoning Ethan to follow. "I live in a small settlement just beyond those hills. You will stay there, at least for tonight. If you have come this far, I will not turn you away, but I hope you will listen to reason." Ethan nodded, grateful for any guidance, and fell into step beside her. The path wound around stony ridges, ancient basalt pillars that jutted from the ground like broken teeth. Along the way, they passed alien flora that glowed faintly, resonating with the hidden pulses of the planet's core. Tiny insects, with luminescent wings, flitted through the air, leaving behind faint trails of light that winked out in the breeze. "Tell me," Ethan said, breaking the silence. "Are there any actual records of explorers accessing these ruins?" Lyara's voice was laced with a quiet sorrow. "Many attempted, few succeed, and the price for success is never light." The last known exploration team was led by two brilliant xenologists. One returned with eyes that saw unimaginable patterns in the universe, and the other vanished completely. Before she was hospitalized, the survivor kept repeating the phrase, "Human, I'm soaked, and this is just the start." The words themselves made little sense, but in her delirium, she clutched a metallic shard engraved with symbols no one could decipher. Ethan felt a tremor of unease. "I've heard something similar before, though I never understood its meaning. It might be a warning, or perhaps an invitation." Lyara frowned, her deep eyes flickering with concern. "I can't say. We have seen enough tragedies along these shores, yet still they come, drawn by the lure of immortality, the whisper of hidden knowledge. Maybe you will be different." As they crested a ridge, Ethan beheld the settlement. A cluster of domed structures sat nestled amid stone spires, each dome reflecting glimmers of the twin suns, creating an ethereal light show. Curtains of shimmering energy projected from small spires, forming a protective barrier around the settlement. Lyara raised a hand, and the energy parted, allowing them to pass through. The interior was tranquil, the hum of the protective shield lending the settlement an air of serene detachment from the harsh world outside. "Come," Lyara said. "I will take you to the Elder, who oversees the guardians here. She has more knowledge of the lake's ancient secrets than any living being on Viridian. Rest assured, your presence has been foretold in ways you cannot yet understand." Intrigued by this cryptic hint, Ethan followed her through winding pathways that led to a central plaza. The settlement's inhabitants, many with the same cerulean skin tone as Lyara, glanced at him curiously, some offering gentle nods of greeting, others watching with guarded expressions. At last, they arrived at a wide, low structure of interlocked crystal panels. An arched doorway beckoned them inside. Yet before he entered, Ethan glanced back at the distant lake. The memory of its still surface glistening under the twin suns lingered in his mind. There was a palpable energy to that place, a magnetic pull that seemed to call his name. He wasn't afraid. Instead, he felt a deep, abiding sense of destiny. As the door slid open, he stepped into the softly lit chamber, ready to embrace whatever revelations lay hidden in the shadows of Viridian's most forbidden secrets. Within the wide, low structure at the center of the settlement, the air was thick with a solemn quietude. Soft lights, trapped within meticulously cut crystals embedded in the walls, illuminated a circular chamber. At the heart of this room stood an ornate seat carved from black obsidian, its surface etched with glyphs that seemed to shift under the low, flickering glow. Seated atop this throne was the Elder, a diminutive, wizened figure whose skin bore the same cerulean hue as Lyara's, though her complexion was faded with age. Her eyes, however, glimmered with uncanny vitality, reflecting millennia of secrets and stories. Lyara bowed low, and Ethan, out of respect, followed suit. The Elder regarded him with a gaze at once piercing and compassionate, her voice barely a whisper, yet resonant enough to fill the entire space. "Ethan Cross, Offworlder, you seek the relics beneath Lake Zephyria." Ethan felt a gentle shiver. "I do, Elder. My quest is driven by the legends of immortality, but also by a personal need to save someone dear to me." The Elder inclined her head. "Your heart speaks truly. Zephyria's waters hold many promises, yet they are fickle. I have witnessed the lake's power undo countless adventurers, their hopes dashed upon illusions conjured by ancient forces we do not fully understand." Her frail hand gestured toward a silver basin at the chamber's edge. Within it shimmered a small measure of water from Lake Zephyria itself, swirling with prismatic hues. "This is the lake's essence, harnessed in controlled amounts. We guardians use it sparingly in healing rituals, but we dare not approach the deeper secrets. The cost is too great. Curiosity warred with caution in Ethan's mind as he gazed at the shimmering water. He wanted to reach out, to feel its texture, to test its properties. But, remembering Lyara's warning, he kept his hands firmly at his sides. "Elder," he asked softly, "do you know the location of the ruins said to lie beneath the lake? Many have claimed to see geometric structures or corridors under the surface, but no one has mapped them conclusively." The elder's thin lips curved into a knowing smile. "Yes, we have records, though not in the form you might expect. Our oral traditions speak of an age when visitors from across the stars forged a living network here, powered by energies that transcended time and space. They carved their secrets into the bedrock beneath the waters, linking this world to distant realms. For centuries, these truths lay dormant, until the alignment of our twin suns rekindled echoes of that primal power." A hush fell upon the chamber. Lyara stood beside Ethan, her posture betraying both respect for the elder and a subtle apprehension for what might come next. Ethan, compelled by longing and wonder, pressed on. "How can I reach these structures? There must be a gateway, or an entrance, something that allows one to descend without succumbing to the depths." The elder's gaze flicked to Lyara, then back to Ethan. "A gateway exists, but it requires a key of both will and sacrifice. Once every century, when the suns align, the waters part in places, revealing corridors of ancient design. Yet, it is not a simple matter of walking in. One must be chosen by Zephyria itself, and in turn, the visitor must relinquish something precious. Without that offering, the lake's illusions devour the mind." Ethan swallowed. He felt a strange pull from the water in the silver basin, as if the lake was beckoning him even here, in this safe enclosure. "What kind of sacrifice?" "Something your heart holds dear," the elder replied. "The lake demands an intimate part of you, an emotional tether. Do not tread lightly upon this path." Before Ethan could respond, the elder lifted a delicate crystal rod from a small pedestal. She held it out to him, and he sensed a subtle vibration emanating from its smooth surface. "Take this, Ethan. It belonged to an explorer who came long ago, seeking knowledge and immortality, just as you do now. He left the rod behind, but never returned to reclaim it. Perhaps it will guide you to the truth you seek." Ethan gently accepted the rod, noticing faint, swirling inscriptions along its length. They reminded him of star charts, but with a geometry that teased the edges of his comprehension. When he held it, his fingers tingled. A fleeting glimpse of swirling galaxies flitted across his inner vision, and he heard an echo of the phrase Lyara had mentioned earlier. "Human, I'm soaked, and this is just the start." The words rang in his mind, strangely forlorn and urgent. He suppressed a shudder and bowed again. "Thank you, Elder. Your counsel and this gift mean more to me than you know." The elder pressed her palm gently to her chest in acknowledgement. "Go now and rest, off-worlder. In the morning, you and Lyara shall journey to the lake's perimeter at dawn, when the suns begin their fateful dance across the horizon. The time of alignment draws near, and the currents of fate converge." Ethan and Lyara exited the chamber, stepping back into the settlement's bustling pathways. The late afternoon light painted the domes in shades of violet and orange. All around, crystalline panels glinted, and the hum of the settlement's protective shield danced like faint music on the breeze. A few children raced by, their laughter echoing against the stone. For a moment, the grim purpose of Ethan's quest receded, and he found himself smiling at their unbridled joy. Lyara led him to a modest abode near the settlement's edge. Inside, the floors were paved with smooth, blue stones, and the ceiling was made of translucent crystal, giving the illusion of being under an endless sky. She showed him a small cot and a basin of water for washing. "I'll be outside if you need anything," she said, her voice subdued. I know the elder's words can weigh heavily on the mind. Ethan nodded appreciatively. "I'm grateful for your help and your warnings. You've put my mind at ease, at least somewhat." Lyara offered a wistful smile. "Rest well. Tomorrow, we begin the true test of your resolve." Alone in the quiet of the abode, Ethan sat on the cot and examined the crystal rod in his hands. Its inscriptions continued to swirl, almost too faint to see, yet undeniably alive with some hidden pulse. He closed his eyes and tried to center himself, tried to recall the impetus that had led him so far from home. His sister's face swam before his mind's eye, her laughter, her gentle encouragement, and now, the encroaching darkness of her illness. If Lake Zephyria truly held the promise of healing, or even immortality, how could he not try? Yet a nagging doubt lingered, born of the elder's cautionary words. A sacrifice, he repeated, thinking of all he held dear. A flicker of fear stirred in his gut, but he pushed it away, telling himself that no price was too high to save a life. After all, he had traveled across galaxies on far slimmer hopes than this. Outside, the twin suns sank lower, their combined glow casting the settlement into a realm of deepening shadows. Through the translucent ceiling, Ethan watched as stars began to puncture the sky, one by one, each twinkling in cosmic harmony with the crystals embedded in Viridian's crust. The planet seemed to breathe beneath him, a soft and steady pulse, as though it recognized his presence. An intruder, but perhaps one fated to be here. Time drifted, and weariness overtook him. He sank onto the cot, letting sleep wrap him in its gentle embrace. His dreams were vivid. Half-formed figures flickered in and out of focus. Corridors of obsidian stretched endlessly, and water rushed in from all sides, cold and comforting at once. Through it all, he heard an echo, a whisper in the void. "Human, I'm soaked, and this is just the start." The words reverberated, persistent as a heartbeat. When he finally awoke, the faint pre-dawn glow seeped through the crystal ceiling. His heart thudded with anticipation. Today, the quest would truly begin. He rose from the cot, splashed water on his face, and steeled himself for the unknown. Before leaving, he stuffed the crystal rod into a protective pouch at his waist, ensuring it would remain close and safe. Stepping outside, he found Lyara waiting. She wore a lighter cloak, revealing the graceful contours of her azure arms and the subtle luminescence that pulsed beneath her skin. Her eyes, deep and determined, met Ethan's. "It's time," she said, her voice gentle but resolute. "The suns will align soon, and the path will open. Let us see if destiny favors you, Ethan Cross." As they set off back along the winding path toward Lake Zephyria, the settlement behind them hummed with cautious hope. Some of the villagers peeked out from doorways, offering silent encouragement or muted prayers. A few shouted brief words in the local tongue, wishing them luck or divine protection. Ethan tried to keep his mind focused on the goal, but a kaleidoscope of emotions whirled within him. Excitement, fear, determination, and the faintest whisper of awe. The blackstone outcropping where Ethan had first met Lyara loomed in the distance. Beyond it, the lake spread in shimmering majesty. Even from far away, Ethan could sense the lake's power, now heightened by the promise of the twin suns' alignment. The surface was still and silvery, as if it awaited their approach with bated breath. Overhead, dawn was on the cusp of arrival, painting the heavens in soft lavender and dusky rose. On the far horizon, the silhouettes of both suns seemed to lean toward each other in celestial anticipation. Lyara paused at the edge of the lake, her footfalls growing silent on the crystalline ground. She glanced at Ethan, a pensive smile on her lips. "Remember, if you feel your mind slipping, if illusions take hold, call out. I won't abandon you. But you must keep your resolve strong, for the lake will prey on your weakest fears and deepest desires." Ethan took a deep breath, nodding. He clutched the crystal rod. Its inscriptions glowed faintly, as if responding to the proximity of the water. "I'll be ready." He hoped he sounded braver than he felt. With measured steps, they ventured closer. The lake's edge was unnaturally smooth, like polished glass. Ethan stared into the waters, searching for any sign of movement. Within moments, a faint swirling began beneath the surface, as if an unseen vortex formed. The twin suns, now peaking above the horizon, cast long beams that converged upon a single point in the lake, igniting a prismatic dance across the water. Ethan's heart pounded. He felt the crystal rod vibrate, a silent urging that called him forward. Lyara stood at his side, unwavering. Together, they waited for the moment that countless legends spoke of, the precise instant when the lake would part, unveiling a realm long thought unreachable. And in that stillness, in the hush before something monumental occurs, Ethan silently prayed that he had the strength to face whatever the lake would reveal. As the first rays of dawn pierced the sky, the surface of Lake Zephyria trembled with an otherworldly glow. For a moment, it seemed as though time itself was suspended, the very air humming with an inaudible tension. Then, without warning, a series of concentric ripples expanded from a point near the shore. The water parted, forming a shimmering archway that led down into darkness. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He glanced at Lyara, whose eyes were fixed on the unfolding marvel with a mixture of reverence and dread. The archway, framed by the prismatic light of the twin suns, beckoned like a portal to another realm. A swirl of cool mist rose from the parted waters, and the lake's surface glinted with iridescent reflections. "It's opening," Ethan whispered, barely believing the sight before him. The crystal rod in his hand vibrated more intensely, its inscriptions shining with renewed brilliance. Something deep within him, a primal instinct, both welcomed and feared this moment. Lyara laid a hand on his shoulder. "We must be swift. The alignment of the suns will not last forever, and once the window closes, the lake will reclaim its secrets." Nodding, Ethan stepped forward, his boots crunching on the shimmering stones at the lake's edge. The water receded before him, exposing a smooth ramp that slanted gently down into the gloom beneath Zephyria's surface. With cautious determination, he followed the path, each step echoing in the subterranean space. The walls of the newly revealed corridor were composed of a dark, glass-like material, lit faintly by twisting bioluminescent veins that pulsed like living arteries. Lyara stayed close, her posture tense but resolute. The further they descended, the cooler the air became, until the warmth of Viridian's dawn felt like a distant memory. The luminous veins in the walls guided their way, pulsing in time with some hidden rhythm. Occasionally, a droplet of water fell from the ceiling, splashing on the polished floor and sending soft echoes through the passage. Ethan's pulse quickened as they advanced. This was not a natural formation. The corridor bore unmistakable signs of intelligent design. Intricate patterns carved into the walls, symmetrical junctions branching off into darkness, and curving columns that resembled structures from ancient cathedrals. After several minutes, the corridor opened into a vast chamber, its domed ceiling supported by pillars of obsidian that seemed to twist upon themselves. At the center of the chamber was a raised dais, upon which stood a monolithic slab etched with geometric symbols. Beneath the dais, water pooled, reflecting shimmering lights that danced like living stars across the stone. Before Ethan could take in all the details, he sensed a low vibration through the soles of his feet, a deep hum that resonated within his bones. Lyara inhaled sharply. "The old power," she murmured, her voice echoing in the monumental space. Moving cautiously, they approached the dais. As they drew nearer, Ethan could feel a subtle pressure on his mind, as though unseen eyes were appraising his every thought. He gripped the crystal rod, bracing himself against the mental intrusion. The rod glowed in response, sending a gentle warmth up his arm. Suddenly, an image flickered across his vision, a fleeting glimpse of an alien city, with spires of metal and glass that stretched far into a smoky red sky. The vision was gone as quickly as it came, leaving him disoriented. Lyara pressed a hand to her temple, suggesting she had experienced something similar. Steeling himself, Ethan rested a hand on the monolithic slab. The surface was cold, yet it pulsed with life beneath its stony facade. The geometric symbols carved into it seemed to shift under his touch, rearranging themselves into a subtle pattern he could almost decipher. Then, in a flash of recognition, he recalled the swirling inscriptions on the crystal rod. Swiftly, Ethan pressed the rod against the slab. The response was immediate and electrifying. A burst of pale light erupted from the junction, spiraling outward like cosmic vines. The walls of the chamber came alive, their patterns unfolding in a dazzling ballet of luminescence. An unseen mechanism groaned, and a portion of the floor slid aside, revealing a spiral staircase descending into deeper darkness. Heart pounding, Ethan exchanged a look with Lyara. Though apprehension shadowed her features, she nodded resolutely. Together, they stepped onto the spiral staircase, each footstep echoing into the depths. The further they descended, the more they felt the gravity of ancient intelligence pressing upon them. It was as if the very air teemed with eons old memories, stirring awake at their intrusion. At the bottom of the staircase lay another corridor, narrower and lined with alcoves. Within each alcove stood a stone effigy, humanoid in shape, but with elongated limbs and features that shifted disconcertingly, depending on the angle of the light. Some effigies had multiple pairs of eyes. Others had intricate headdresses reminiscent of cosmic crowns. A few clutched orbs or staves carved from strange mineral deposits. Ethan's stomach churned at the sight of these silent sentinels, their expressions caught between serenity and torment. As they progressed, the corridor opened into a secondary chamber. Here, the water from Lake Zephyria trickled in through hidden channels, forming shallow pools on the floor. The faint glow of the walls reflected on the water's surface, creating a kaleidoscope of shimmering patterns. In the center of this chamber stood a large, semicircular door made of the same obsidian-like material as the pillars above. Its surface rippled, as though it were partially liquid, and an ornate symbol that resembled an 8-pointed star was emblazoned at its core. Ethan felt a tug on his consciousness. He heard, or rather felt, a voice that was not a voice, a silent urging to proceed. Lyara must have sensed it too, for she stood transfixed by the door, her azure skin glistening with a thin sheen of perspiration. She turned to Ethan. "It wants us to enter, but I sense danger. The illusions might grow stronger beyond this threshold." Ethan nodded, forcing down a flicker of doubt. "We came here for answers. We can't turn back now." Summoning his courage, he approached the obsidian door. As he reached for it, the 8-pointed star shimmered, and the door yielded to his touch, parting like a liquid curtain. A gust of cold air rushed out, carrying the scent of ancient dust and hidden secrets. Together, they stepped through. Beyond the door lay an immense antechamber, lined with what appeared to be control consoles. The consoles bristled with alien instrumentation, translucent panels, glowing sigils, and strange, luminescent nodules that pulsated with unknown energies. The chamber's high ceiling was supported by arches that interlocked like the ribs of a colossal beast. Across the floor, serpentine lines of light wove patterns that converged at a central dais. "This was once a hub," Lyara said, her voice hushed with awe, "perhaps for travelers from distant stars. See how the lines connect here." She gestured at the dais, where the serpentine lines came together in a ring of faintly glowing symbols. Ethan's gaze swept the consoles. He touched one panel, and it flared to life, projecting a ghostly hologram into the air. The image showed a star map unlike any he had seen, with swirling clusters of color and elaborate webs of light connecting countless points. As he tried to interpret it, he felt a surge of vertigo, as if his mind was being flooded with knowledge beyond human capacity. Lyara, alarmed, gripped his arm. "You must pace yourself. These are not your star charts. There's something far more expansive." With effort, Ethan disengaged from the console. "You're right. It's overwhelming." He exhaled shakily, glancing around as the hologram faded. "Let's see if there's a more direct way to learn what we need." Their attention turned to the dais. At its center stood a pillar, a little taller than Ethan's shoulder. It appeared to be made of the same black stone as the door, but woven through with faintly glowing lines of silver. Above the pillar hovered a small sphere of water, contained within a nimbus of shimmering energy. Ethan stared at the floating orb in fascination. It reflected the light in the chamber, creating a prism of colors. Lyara approached with trepidation. "This water, could it be from the lake? Why is it suspended here?" She extended a hand, but halted inches from its surface. The energies surrounding the orb crackled with subtle ferocity. A deep, tremulous hum filled the air, resonating through their chests. The sphere of water quivered, then parted slightly, revealing a cluster of symbols etched onto a metallic device at its core. Ethan recognized the same swirling inscriptions that graced the crystal rod. His pulse quickened. Perhaps this was the key to unlocking the lake's fabled power, the secret to the immortality so many had sought. "Careful," Lyara warned, but Ethan was already moving. Gripping the rod with one hand, he reached out with the other, pressing the tip of the rod against the shimmering orb. Instantly, a shock wave of force erupted, knocking both him and Lyara backward. Ethan crashed into the console behind him, gasping for breath. The orb flickered, then stabilized, once again hovering placidly in the air. Lyara pushed herself upright, clutching her arm. That felt like the lake fighting back. "Are you all right?" Coughing, Ethan forced himself to his feet. A sharp pain lanced through his side, but nothing seemed broken. "Yes," he managed. "I didn't expect that much resistance." Summoning his courage, he limped back toward the dais, though more cautiously this time. The water sphere still shimmered, its metallic core now glowing with an intense inner light. The lines of silver in the pillar brightened, casting shifting patterns across the chamber walls. Bit by bit, the orb expanded, as though responding to an invisible command. Suddenly, the chamber was awash in luminescent streams of data. Holographic screens manifested around them, flickering images of unknown civilizations, their architecture, their languages, their triumphant discoveries, and final tragedies. Ethan glimpsed wars fought across star systems, alliances formed between alien species, and unstoppable cataclysms that devoured entire worlds. His mind reeled as he struggled to maintain his sense of self amidst the onslaught of knowledge. Lyara cried out, pressing her hands to her temples. Her eyes shone with tears of strain. "It's too much. This place, this technology, it's imprinting on our minds. We have to stop it." But Ethan persisted, guided by the memory of his sister, the knowledge that this might be the only hope to save her. He clenched his jaw and reached out once more with the crystal rod, this time slowly, gingerly. The swirling inscriptions along its length glowed in harmonious tandem with the orb's metallic core. A subtle shift occurred. The images slowed, coalescing into more coherent forms, less painful to behold. Ethan felt an odd sense of communion, as if the ancient intelligences that built this place were inviting him to step into their legacy. He heard that same echoing phrase again, so close it felt as if it was spoken inside his head. "Human, I'm soaked, and this is just the start." Then, with a final surge of radiance, the water sphere and its metallic device melted into the pillar, fusing into a single artifact that shimmered with mesmerizing brilliance. A soft chime reverberated through the chamber, followed by silence. Staggering, Ethan turned to Lyara, who had fallen to her knees. He rushed to her side, helping her up. She gazed at him with an expression that was a mix of concern and wonder. "What just happened?" she whispered, her voice shaky. Ethan shook his head, hardly believing what he felt. I think the artifact accepted us. Or me. And it imparted some knowledge. I'm not sure I fully understand it yet, but I know this is the key to the lake's deeper power. It might be how the legends of immortality began." Lyara steadied herself against him, her breathing ragged. "This is too big, Ethan. If this knowledge fell into the wrong hands." He nodded gravely. "I know, but maybe it can be used to heal, not to dominate. We must be careful. We have to learn how to harness it correctly. We're only scratching the surface here, and I don't want to unravel more than we can handle." Suddenly, a rumble shook the chamber, sending dust cascading from the high arches. The serpentine lines of light on the floor flickered wildly. Water dripped more rapidly from the walls, as if the lake was beginning to reclaim the corridors. A harsh grinding noise echoed from the spiral staircase behind them. Lyara's eyes went wide. "The alignment is shifting. We have to leave before we're sealed in forever." Clutching the crystal rod and whatever fragment of ancient knowledge still lingered in his mind, Ethan dashed back toward the obsidian door. The illusions around them pulsed and surged, phantom shapes flickering at the edges of their vision, but they pressed forward. The door remained open, but the corridor beyond was already filling with water that seeped through the walls. They splashed through the rising tide, breath coming in ragged gasps. At the base of the spiral staircase, water surged in torrents, threatening to engulf them. With no time to think, they forced their way up, step by slippery step. The hum of alien machinery filled the corridors, as though the ancient systems were reacting in defense or retribution. Water battered at their legs, rising steadily, but they pushed on. Halfway up the staircase, Ethan felt Lyara stumble behind him. He turned, grasped her hand, and pulled her upright. "Come on, don't give in," he shouted, voice echoing. She nodded, grimly determined, and they continued. At last, they emerged back into the grand chamber where they had first used the crystal rod. The dais was flooded, the columns dripping with sheets of water. Without looking back, they sprinted across the chamber, heading for the corridor that led out. The parted passage had begun to close, like a great mouth filled with swirling liquid. Each footstep felt heavier than the last, as if the lake itself was clamping down. Summoning the last reserves of strength, Ethan and Lyara lunged through the closing archway. Water roared after them, and for a heartbeat it seemed they would be swallowed. But they tumbled onto the shore, coughing and gasping, as the corridor sealed behind them in a torrent of churning liquid. Panting, drenched, and trembling, they collapsed on the crystalline shoreline. The twin suns had shifted higher in the sky, their beams no longer perfectly aligned. The path they had taken into the depths was gone, once more hidden beneath the serene, impenetrable surface of Lake Zephyria. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sounds were their ragged breaths and the gentle lapping of water against stone. At last, Lyara broke the silence. "We made it," she whispered. "I didn't think we would." Ethan nodded, eyes closed, heart thundering in his chest. He clutched the crystal rod, which still shimmered faintly. Something felt different now. An intangible sense of awareness lingered, like a half-remembered dream. "We did," he murmured. "But something tells me this is only the beginning. We've stirred whatever sleeps beneath Zephyria, and it has a will of its own." Slowly, they got to their feet. Though the lake looked calm once more, Ethan could almost hear the echoes of that ancient intelligence churning in its depths. The phrase repeated in his mind once again, as if engraved into his very essence. "Human, I'm soaked, and this is just the start." Without another word, they turned away from the shimmering water and made their way back toward the settlement, each step heavy with the knowledge of what they had witnessed below. A new chapter of their journey loomed, the mysteries of Lake Zephyria growing ever deeper and more urgent. For Ethan, the stakes were higher than ever. He had a fragment of the key to immortality within his grasp, but at what cost? And for Lyara, the realization that the Guardian's cautionary tales were mere echoes of a grander cosmic tapestry weighed upon her heart. One thing was clear: neither of them would ever see the lake, or themselves, the same way again. Night had fallen on the settlement by the time Ethan and Lyara returned, weary and soaked from their ordeal. A hush descended upon the crowd that gathered to meet them at the settlement's entrance. Concern etched into their faces, the villagers and guardians made way for the pair, whispering among themselves as Ethan clutched the crystal rod tightly to his chest, and Lyara's cloak dripped with lake water. Wordlessly, they were escorted to the elder's abode. The elder stood waiting at the threshold, leaning heavily on a slender staff carved from the native black stone. Her gaze flicked from Ethan's haggard expression to Lyara's trembling shoulders, and she motioned them inside with a single nod. Once within the low-lit chamber, the elder directed them to a bench where they could collapse. "You returned," the elder said softly, her voice filled with a quiet wonder. "We felt a disturbance in the lake's currents." It was as though Zephyria herself roared in awakening. Ethan tried to steady his breathing, struggling to find his voice. "Something happened down there," he said, hoarsely. "We found an ancient structure, a nexus of sorts, filled with knowledge and illusions. It reached into our minds. I saw entire civilizations, star systems connected in ways I can't even begin to describe. And I think we triggered something that has been dormant for centuries, maybe millennia." Lyara swallowed hard, nodding in agreement. "It was overwhelming, Elder. The illusions nearly broke us. We barely escaped." The memory of the swirling chamber and the violent surge of water made her shudder. "But I sense the awakening is not finished." The elder regarded them with a grave calm, her thin fingers laced together. "We Guardians have long suspected that Zephyria was a conduit, a gateway to distant worlds, maintained by an intelligence beyond our comprehension. You may have revived that ancient link." Ethan managed a wry smile. "Then my arrival here has consequences that reach far beyond my original quest." He lifted the crystal rod, its inscription still faintly shimmering in the dim light. "This artifact responded to me. It felt like I was chosen in some way, and I gleaned traces of knowledge, hints about reversing degenerative diseases, about regenerating cells." He paused, closing his eyes as emotion threatened to overwhelm him. "If these glimpses are real, it might be the key to saving my sister. But the secrets are incomplete, fragmented. I need more time. The elder nodded, her expression solemn. And time may be precisely what we do not have. The lake's power grows restless. More illusions are forming along the shore, and the guardians can barely keep the settlement protected. Some residents have reported hearing voices at night, voices that beckon them to the water's edge. Lyara's eyes widened. Voices? Are the illusions spreading beyond the lake itself? Yes, replied the elder. They are reaching out, searching for minds to ensnare. If we do not act, the entire settlement could be engulfed by Zephyria's illusions. Or worse, something more tangible and far-reaching could emerge from the ancient nexus. Ethan felt a surge of guilt. I never intended to endanger anyone. He trailed off, the weight of his responsibility pressing upon him. The elder raised a hand to forestall his regret. Your coming has set events in motion, but do not bear this burden alone. The cycle was prophesied. Perhaps we needed this awakening to confront the lake's power once and for all. Her voice softened. You speak of hope, for your sister, and possibly others who suffer. There is nobility in that, Ethan Cross. Ethan looked up, meeting the elder's gaze. Then help me. Teach me what you know. Let's see if we can harness the lake's energy without destroying ourselves or unleashing its illusions upon the galaxy. There must be a way to stabilize the connection, to retrieve the knowledge locked within that nexus safely. Lyara, resolute, nodded. I'll stand beside Ethan in this. We cannot allow the settlement to fall prey to illusions, nor can we ignore the potential for healing that the lake's secrets offer. An unspoken accord passed between them. The elder guided them into an adjacent chamber, smaller and more intimate, where a single crystalline orb rested on a pedestal carved from ancient stone. This orb was crafted by my predecessors. It is attuned to Lake Zephyria, sensitive to the flux of its hidden power. Place your crystal rod beside it, Ethan. Ethan complied, placing the rod gently next to the orb. Instantly, the two objects resonated, a low hum filling the chamber. The orb's surface clouded, revealing shifting patterns of light and shadow. Ethan could almost make out shapes in the swirling glow, vague silhouettes, star maps, and fractal designs that reminded him of the Nexus. That is the echo of what you experienced below, the elder said quietly. We may be able to glean a method to interface with the Nexus in a more controlled manner, but it requires a focus of will, a powerful anchor to prevent the illusions from overwhelming us. Lyara touched Ethan's arm. Remember the elder's words about sacrifice. The lake demands a piece of our essence in exchange for its secrets. Perhaps that principle extends here. Some form of emotional tether might be needed to keep us grounded in reality. Ethan nodded slowly. My sister is my tether. My love for her, my desperation to save her. That's what drove me here. I'd give anything to see her healthy again. The elder's gaze flicked between them. Then prepare yourselves. Tonight, as the moon of Viridian rises to its apex, its gravitational pull will combine with the lingering resonance of the twin suns' alignment. That synergy might grant us one final chance to safely connect with the Nexus. And so, as dusk deepened, the three of them readied the chamber. They arranged crystals along the walls to magnify the orb's energies. Lyara recited ancient guardian chants, calling upon the lake's dormant wisdom to show mercy. Ethan sat cross-legged beside the orb, the crystal rod resting against his thigh, focusing on the memory of his sister's smile and the warmth of her laugh. He breathed in and out, steady and rhythmic, centering himself for the trial to come. At midnight, the Viridian moon loomed high, a pale orb in the sky. The moment its light struck the orb on the pedestal, the swirling interior roiled with new intensity. Threads of luminescence arced between the orb and the crystal rod, dancing like lightning. A resonant tone filled the chamber, akin to an otherworldly chorus. Ethan gasped as he felt his consciousness tugged forward. The walls of the chamber faded from view, replaced by a storm of cosmic imagery. He heard Lyara's voice calling his name, and he clung to the sound of it, using it as a lifeline amidst the raging current. The illusions pressed in, phantasmic shapes and scintillating colors that threatened to disorient him. But he held on, summoning every ounce of will. Focus, Ethan. Lyara's voice sliced through the chaos. Remember why you're here. He closed his eyes, envisioning his sister at home, pale and frail, but still smiling. The love he felt, the fierce desire to protect her, these emotions coalesced into a bright sphere in his mind's eye. He poured that sphere of emotion into the swirling currents of illusions. Gradually, the chaos began to subside, organizing itself into coherent patterns. Once more, Ethan stood within that monumental nexus chamber he had glimpsed before, though this time it was not underwater. The environment was ephemeral, half-real. He saw the control consoles, the swirling star maps. A faint silhouette materialized in front of him, an alien figure tall and slender, wearing elaborate robes of shifting light. It spoke without words, projecting understanding directly into Ethan's mind. He sensed its compassion, its ancient grief, its warning. This being was part of the network that once spanned galaxies. A caretaker, a sentinel. In a flood of insight, Ethan learned how the intelligence behind Lake Zephyria was meant to unite distant worlds, sharing knowledge and life-giving energies. But something went wrong. The network had fractured, isolating this node on Viridian, turning its power inward until it became a source of illusions, unmoored from the greater cosmic tapestry. The being reached out, touching Ethan's forehead in a gesture of profound benevolence. Streams of data and understanding flowed into him. He glimpsed the structure of cellular regeneration, the method by which advanced species manipulated genetic codes to conquer disease and extend life. He saw formulas, symbols, equations, felt them embed themselves in his memory. Yet a warning came, too. This knowledge carried a price. It must be used with great care, or it could twist into monstrous forms. For a timeless instant, Ethan was one with the caretaker, absorbing eons of sorrow and hope. Then he felt a jerk, as though someone pulled him backward. The vision dissolved, replaced once more by the flickering glow of the orb chamber. His body was drenched in sweat, muscles trembling. He dimly registered Lyara kneeling beside him, her hands on his shoulders. "Ethan, speak to me. Are you all right?" Struggling to focus, he managed a nod. "I'm here," he rasped. "I saw everything. The caretaker, the network. They wanted to share healing with all worlds. It was never about immortality alone. It was about preserving life." The elder stepped forward, her eyes glistening with tears. "You carry a sacred trust now, Ethan Cross. A burden and a gift." Ethan touched his temple, feeling the swirl of knowledge etched into his mind. "I think I know how to help my sister. There's a method, cellular rewriting powered by the lake's energies. But it must be done with a stable connection to the caretaker's technology, or else it could fail, or worse." Lyara clasped his hand. "Then we'll do it together. We'll find a way to safely harness the lake's power, to channel the caretaker's knowledge without succumbing to illusions." The elder's voice trembled with relief. "Hope has come to Viridian. We will stand with you, protecting the settlement from the illusions while you refine this process." In the weeks that followed, Ethan worked tirelessly with the settlement's guardians, using the caretaker's insights to construct a small resonator device. This apparatus harnessed minute samples of the lake's water, stabilizing its energies through a series of carefully aligned crystals. Lyara served as his constant ally, helping to keep the illusions at bay with guardian chants and the emotional fortitude born of her deep connection to Zephyria. As the device neared completion, Ethan felt both awe and trepidation. He had tested it on small, non-sentient organisms at first, injured local animals, decaying plant life. The results were staggering. Wounds mended, cells rejuvenated. Yet always that undercurrent of caution. The illusions lay in wait, ready to twist any moment of weakness or ambition. At last, the day arrived when Ethan was ready to attempt the cure for his sister. Standing in the resonator chamber he and Lyara had prepared, he activated a secure comm link to his homeworld. His sister, pale and breathing with difficulty, appeared on the hollow display. She smiled weakly, as though the mere act cost her great effort. "I have something that might help," he said, voice thick with emotion. "I'll send you the data for a treatment cycle, a blueprint derived from the caretaker's technology. You'll need to find a medical facility advanced enough to replicate it, but it should work." She looked at him through the hollow feed, tears brimming in her eyes. "I never doubted you'd do everything you could. Thank you, Ethan." Her voice broke. She touched her chest, where her heart was thudding. Ethan swallowed hard. "It'll be all right," he whispered. Hold on just a little longer. He transmitted the data, watching as technicians on her end scrambled to receive and analyze it. Hours later, an update came through. His sister had been placed in a regenerative capsule, her vital signs stabilizing. The caretaker's method was working, rewriting the damaged cells, halting the progression of her illness, even restoring lost vitality. The tears that Ethan had held back for so long finally flowed. Lyara placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, relief shining in her own eyes. Then a message arrived, simple, heartfelt, and triumphant. "Ethan, it's working. I can feel it. I'm getting better." The line crackled with emotion, and in that moment, the weight of his journey lifted, replaced by boundless gratitude. The settlement, too, felt the change. The illusions that had grown more aggressive seemed to recede. Perhaps the caretaker sensed the healing accomplished through its ancient technology, finding balance once more. The orb in the elder's chamber glowed with a gentle light, a sign that the caretaker's connection to the cosmic network was stabilizing. In the following weeks, Ethan helped the Guardians refine the resonator device, ensuring it would not be abused. The elder decreed that any further use of the caretaker's knowledge must be guided by wisdom and compassion, preventing the horrors that once befell ancient civilizations seeking only power. With each passing day, the illusions around the lake diminished, and the settlement's protective barrier was strengthened. At last, Ethan stood at the shore of Lake Zephyria, Lyara by his side. The water sparkled under the warmth of Viridian's twin suns. He felt no malice from the lake, only a calm acceptance. Kneeling, he touched the surface, letting the cool water run through his fingers. In that moment, he sensed a bond, a gentle reassurance that, though the caretaker's network was but a fragment of what it once was, its spirit lived on in the hearts of those who chose to protect life rather than exploit it. Lyara smiled, the tension gone from her features. "Will you stay on Viridian now, Ethan Cross? You have done so much for us, yet there is more to discover." He looked into her dark eyes, reading the unspoken invitation there. "There's a galaxy of wonders, but something tells me my path still winds through this lake, these ruins. There's more to learn, ways to help others, just as I've helped my sister." He paused, then returned her smile. "I'd be honored to stay, if you'll have me." She took his hand in hers. "Then let us walk forward together, as guardians not just of Zephyrria's secrets, but of the hope it can bring to so many." They rose, hand in hand, beneath the golden light of Viridian's suns. Behind them, the settlement thrived in renewed harmony, children laughing and running among the crystalline structures, elders sharing stories of the caretaker's legacy. And out across the shimmering waters, Lake Zephyria lay serene once more, its ancient consciousness in quiet accord with the beating hearts of those who chose compassion over conquest. In that tranquil moment, Ethan felt a profound gratitude. For though his journey began with desperation, it ended here, on these alien shores, in a place where illusions had given way to truths, and where a humble archaeologist's deepest hope had become a reality. It was, by any measure, a happy ending, yet also the dawn of a new beginning, bright with possibilities and guided by a gentle, cosmic wisdom that transcended the boundaries of any single world.